Puedes embarcarte en una aventura épica junto a los legendarios pueblos de la historia y hasta derrocar un imperio.
¡Fuego!
Puedes vivir el momento exacto en el que las más grandes mentes de la ciencia descubren eso que jamás te habías preguntado cómo funcionaba. Puedes explorar el mundo entero y descubrir culturas milenarias.
Esta es una nueva evidencia que no teníamos antes.
Puedes aprender del pasado para entender el presente y mejorar tu futuro.
3, 2, 1.
Enciende tu curiosidad. Lo que nos rodea.
Planeamos ir hasta el lugar y buscar cosas que nadie ha visto.
Lo que hacemos.
Es el experimento más grande que se ha hecho.
Lo que somos.
Nosotros vamos a encontrar lo que ellos no pudieron.
Todo tiene una historia. Descúbrelas a todas en un solo lugar. History 2. Han cubierto bajo su techo a grandes y polémicas personalidades. Sus estructuras y acabados reflejan la riqueza de tierras imperiales. Y sus muros han resguardado la fortaleza del poder y la fe. Piedra sobre piedra, los grandes testigos de la historia aún se mantienen en pie. Junio, por History 2. Las respuestas a una búsqueda de más de 7 años están cada vez más cerca. Búnkers, océanos y fronteras no fueron obstáculos suficientes para detenerlos. Y la verdad detrás del destino final del Führer está por descubrirse. Persiguiendo a Hitler. Por History 2, mucha más historia. Una historia contada muchas veces. Pero ¿cuánto de esto es verdad? Una serie documental para conocer los misterios y las posibles conspiraciones de los Estados Unidos. Una búsqueda sin precedentes de lugares prohibidos y sociedades ocultas.
Son más cosas las que nosotros ignoramos que las que sabemos.
Donde hay seguridad, hay secretos infinitos. Secretos de Estado, edición especial. Por History 2, mucha más historia. Algunas de las construcciones más asombrosas del hombre no están a la vista. En el subsuelo existen avanzados centros tecnológicos, museos e incluso grandes ciudades. Una nueva serie de History 2 que explora la fascinante historia que vive a nuestros pies. Mundos subterráneos. Por History 2. Mucha más historia.
Buenas tardes a todos. Bienvenidos. Para una mejor experiencia, les solicitamos por favor que mantengan sus micrófonos muteados. Todo el material que presentaremos puede ser utilizado para difusión y promoción. Muchas gracias y que disfruten del evento.
Buenas noches y bienvenidos a este evento virtual de prensa de History 2. Una de las cosas más importantes que tenemos es que History 2 es básicamente la marca más importante en la oferta cultural y documentales de contenido a lo largo y ancho de América Latina. Por eso les damos la mejor programación en términos documentales y culturales y series que hacen la diferencia, como el gran estreno de Imperios de Asia o Mark of Empire, que es una miniserie de 4 episodios que explora lo más importante que ha ocurrido en la zona del Sur Asia, en los imperios de Asia. Y para más detalles, vamos a conversar durante la siguiente hora con Peter. Pero aparte de hablar con Peter Lee y con Miguel Brailovsky, vamos a poder compartir con ustedes algunos adelantos de esta gran e impresionante miniserie. Recuerden, pueden grabar todo pueden preguntar lo que quieran y lo más importante, todo ese material se puede utilizar para promoción y difusión de History 2 y esos contenidos que hacen la diferencia hoy más que nunca. Con ustedes, Miguel Velaloski, el vicepresidente de producción y programación de América Latina y de Brasil para History y History 2. Miguel, ¿cómo estás? Una vez más, casi prácticamente nos vemos toda la semana, Miguel.
Bueno, qué bueno que haya tantas cosas para contar. Gracias, César. Gracias a todos. Ya no sé si decir buenas tardes, buenas noches, buenos días. Es increíble la cantidad de países y usos horarios diferentes que están conectados hoy, así que gracias nuevamente por acompañarnos. Para nosotros es extremadamente valioso poder compartir estas novedades con ustedes y que sean nuestra voz en cada uno de los países. Es un gran año para History 2. Quiero empezar diciendo esto porque más allá de que nosotros venimos siempre ocupando un tiempo importante con el hermano mayor, que es History, History 2, primero que es el canal de nuestro portafolio de A&E Networks, que está marcando un crecimiento más importante en el 2021, un año complejo obviamente por múltiples motivos de conocimiento público, pero History 2 está gozando de una salud increíble y nos está dando muchísimas satisfacciones. Y uno de los motivos por el que esto está sucediendo es porque hay una tendencia en general de los canales que originalmente se denominaban canales de documentales, bueno, de empezar a enriquecer y a variar la oferta de contenidos, tener formatos de múltiples géneros diferentes conviviendo en la misma pantalla. Y la realidad es que hay una audiencia muy importante en América Latina que es amante de los documentales, es amante de este género fascinante que nos conecta con la cultura, que nos conecta con conocimientos de todas partes del mundo. Y esta tendencia que está sucediendo en la televisión de que los antiguos canales de documentales ya abarcan una amplitud de géneros mucho más extensa, hizo que History 2 se esté posicionando como el destino privilegiado para aquella audiencia fanática del género documental. Y a nosotros eso nos enorgullece un montón porque contamos con una cantidad extraordinaria de contenido con que alimentar año tras año y saber que hay una audiencia fanática que durante las 24 horas va a encontrar lo que busca. Este año, en 2021, tenemos una cantidad de estrenos más amplios que en ningún otro momento desde que se lanzó el canal en la región y nos ha permitido construir esta estructura del prime time que hoy define a History 2, que son estas noches temáticas que cada una está orientada a alimentar una de estas grandes temáticas que fascinan a esos televidentes del documental, que son los temas que desde que el canal lanzó en la región se han convertido en los grandes drivers, que son los temas religiosos, los temas que tienen que ver con conflictos militares, los temas de innovación y tecnología, los temas biográficos y los temas de la historia de antiguas civilizaciones. Y es en este último punto, la historia de antiguas civilizaciones, que el estreno del que estamos hablando, Imperios de Asia, se convierte en un exponente privilegiado, porque un poco como contaba César, no solamente nos vamos a adentrar en una mirada sobre un territorio que a veces para Latinoamérica genera mucho misterio y desconocimiento, sino que nos vamos a sorprender cómo esas culturas que en apariencia son tan lejanas, tanto en el tiempo como en la geografía, han tenido un impacto sin precedentes en el mundo en el que hoy nosotros vivimos y habitamos. Nos parece que esta idea de conectar el pasado con el presente como una inspiración permanente para el entretenimiento de History 2 tiene aquí en Imperios de Asia un exponente increíble. Y por eso que estamos tan orgullosos de poner a History 2 en el medio del escenario hoy, porque realmente este contenido vale la pena. Peter Lee y su equipo han hecho un trabajo extraordinario. Ahora vamos a hablar más en detalle con él y nos va a contar un poco cómo ha llegado a generar este contenido tan fascinante. Pero antes que nada, y para empezar, permítanme presentarles un breve avance del estreno de Imperios de Asia.
Southeast Asia is one of the most diverse places on the planet. With so many different cultures and religions, all living side by side. And I'm an example of just that. My name is Peter Lee. I'm a Singaporean scholar of Peranakan descent, Chinese with a dash of Malay blood. I celebrate being mixed up. It's right in my DNA. My passion is collecting artifacts that offer a fresh narrative. It's a European fairy tale, but is depicted on a batik from Indonesia. How wonderful is that? I'm setting off on a new journey, traveling further back in time. Oh my God, we see this everywhere in Southeast Asia. To explore how the region's mighty empires have shaped our collective identity. This is a gold mine. No culture exists in isolation. In this episode, I'm in Thailand. 500 years ago, most of this land was controlled by the Ayutthaya Empire. It flourished by utilizing its natural resources.
Oh, he's going for it.
Growing into a trading giant that spawned one of the world's largest cosmopolitan hubs of its time. I'm discovering the secrets. I feel like an explorer from the old days. Of how it became one of Southeast Asia's richest kingdoms. And how it transformed the course of Thai history.
Bueno, y es un honor presentarles al creador de este proyecto extraordinario, el productor de la serie, el señor Peter Lee. Hi, Peter. Thank you so much for joining us. It's a pleasure. It's an honor. We are really proud to premiere your work on History 2 in Latin America. So welcome. There is a lot of journalists, our region, very interested in knowing more about your work. But first of all, probably the Latin American audience is not very familiar with your background. Could you please introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about your background and what motivated you to face this ambitious and incredible project that we are premiering in Latin America in June.
Thank you very much, Miguel, and for inviting me to this. I'm a historian of mixed cultures. I come from Singapore, where we have grown up being comfortable in a multicultural society, and my interest has been to make that accessible as far as possible and tangible. I think it's important that history isn't something dead and something that we that we feel this distance from. And I think it's really important to draw history into sort of our lives today, to make it really relevant in an emotional and tangible way. And I think that has a lot to do with where I come from, where we strangely live with so much of the past, but it's quite easy to forget it exists as well. And my passion and mission is to draw both together and make it sort of really dynamic and alive. Yeah, I would say that that's my primary interest.
How did the project was born? Tell us a bit about the origin of Mark van Empire.
Well, the most amazing thing about it was it was a cold call. I got approached by In Focus Asia, which is a film production company commissioned by Channel News Asia. They were looking for someone who could kind of bring history alive from a different perspective. You know, they weren't looking for a historian to monologue. They wanted someone curious, someone with a different point of view. And so they approached me, and it's work I've never done before, which was the biggest challenge for me because I said, "Are you sure you want to do this? I've never done TV work. You're taking a big gamble." I remember from the very first day, I had to talk straight to the camera, and I couldn't even keep my eye focused on the camera. And they had to put somebody, an assistant, behind the director. And I was thinking, oh my God, this is really bad, and I hope it gets better rather than worse. But so it was a completely new experience, but I think it was important that the vision of the production company kind of saw it through. I think I told myself from the start, I'm a historian, I'm not a TV person. And it is important to collaborate with people, with that kind of experience to connect with audiences. And I think that's a completely different medium. So I told myself, do everything they say, just shut up and, listen to the experts. So that's what I did.
Peter, we would like to share with our audience a scenes of the first chapter of this magnificent mini-series so we can talk to you what you were thinking behind each one of the episodes. The first episode is about Ayutthaya and in Thailand. So let's watch it together and then we are going to share your thoughts with you. Mariana,
Visita el sudeste asiático y descubre junto a History 2 extraordinarias ruinas antiguas, leyendas épicas y tradiciones centenarias que son testigos del ascenso y caída de 4 poderosos imperios, cuyo legado sigue influyendo al mundo que conocemos. Imperios de Asia, viernes 11 de junio a las 10 de la noche por History 2.
So everyone wants to know how Thailand went from a city stank on the time to a magnificent kind of a city that is now a radiant city with so many things going on. Tell us, how was that transformation possible?
Yeah, I think it comes across as such a surprise or a mystery, largely because many of these amazing Asian cities of the past just completely were destroyed, and so little survives of it. So, it's hard to bring a past when there's so little surviving. So, this episode, in a way, was to give life to this part of history, and actually how it mirrors Bangkok today in so many ways, and that upriver, this incredible city with people from everywhere, from Europe, from Japan, from Southeast Asia, and it was so dynamic, and it completely left a legacy that is still alive today. I think that's the other critical thing. And of course, I think that this sort of big problem we have with dealing in the past, even till today, which is the incredible violence of life at that time. Quite often we think of this violence as being, colonialism, as something just as a legacy of colonialism. But what I try to tell everybody is that people were just violent in the past, even people within communities. And we have a tendency to look at being victimized, but if we be sort of realistic and look at how things were in the past, it wasn't just one bad guy against all these victims. Everybody was kind of, you know, chaotic and bad and good, and we need to look at history that way, you know, as networks of good and bad, and not just this kind of very black and white scenario. And I think looking at Ayutthya's history and how it developed, and as well as through these GFX or animation, we wanted to bring these incredible stories and also connect to younger audiences with this sort of animation style, which was you know, kind of relevant, I felt, and so cleverly and beautifully done. Was to pool this past, present all together, and to reach out to audiences, young and old.
I mean, from a history perspective, we want to combine always culture and entertainment, and we find a perfect way to do it through your series. Mark of Empire is a way that invites people from different generations to understand human beings. Human beings are always the same human beings, but are different factors throughout history that can affect their lives, their cultures, and their reaction to their times. And I think that's what we see in Thailand.
Yes, absolutely. I love the whole, how everyone worked out this very tangible, sort of sensual approach. Very hands-on, uh, even understanding from the simple like material from the bricks, and of course to cooking. And we're talking about a period from, say, the 15th to the 17th century, and the world was so connected at that time. I mean, there are aspects of culture in Ayutthaya which are very related to Latin America through the Portuguese influence. And I mean, there were churches in Ayutthaya as well. And as we see in the episode, even how Portuguese cooking has influenced Ayutthaya and Thai cuisine even up to today.
And we are very happy that the influence of Thai cuisine is alive in Latin America. We love it. Now we are going to go 900 years ago. We are going to talk about Bagan, and we're going to talk about Myanmar and the largest capital of Buddhism in the world. So let's share part of the second episode before we keep chatting with you.
En el próximo episodio de Imperios de Asia, estoy explorando cómo el imperio de Bagan dominó durante más de 2 siglos, de cómo se formó una nueva cultura a partir de distintas influencias y una identidad que define a la nación hasta el día de hoy. Imperios de Asia, nueva serie, viernes a las 10 de la noche por History 2.
So we are back. Now it's your time to share with us how Myanmar became the largest Buddhism capital of the world, and what is the impact that it's having around the globe.
Now, I think what's incredible for me was to share with the audience this, with this feeling about Bagan, which when visually is so exotic. It has this sort of incredible, serene, almost like out of this world feeling. And how do we connect that as something normal? I think that was one of the most interesting challenges. And at the end of the day, I think the series tried to sort of humanize the whole kind of incredible history of Bagan, and basically it starts from this inspiration, that the more you build, the greater, the more merit you do, and as this incredible human aspiration to do good. And as a result, all these temples were built, thousands and thousands. I mean, and the other thing is to sort of track this exoticism. And again, it takes us to the idea that this culture, this beautiful city, developed out of also a combination of different histories of people and cultures coming together. And I think that's always an important factor to know, that societies form always by people coming together. There's no such thing as a pure history, and we see that very clearly in Pagan as well. Despite it looking as what we imagine it to be a pure culture, it's actually quite a melting pot as well.
So now, talking about melting pot, we're going to go to explore the third episode with you, and we're going to talk about Angkor and the amazing transformation in Cambodia. So let's take a look.
Hace 1000 años, el Imperio Angkor construyó una de las ciudades más sofisticadas de la antigüedad. Al borde de planicies inundadas, donde el agua podría llegar a 10 metros de altura. Pero estas hostiles circunstancias mejoraron sus habilidades de supervivencia, con las que construyeron deslumbrantes estructuras que aún existen. Imperios de Asia, viernes a las 10 de la noche, por History 2.
So if we have the chance to watch this amazing new series and we are in front of our device or our TV and we are watching this particular episode about Angkor, what we have to pay attention to? What is the most important thing that we need to pay attention to this amazing episode?
Well, I think the most striking thing about Angkor in this sense is that, today we build airports, and skyscrapers. But I mean, basically, Angkor Wat and the whole Angkor region, these were the kind of aspirational buildings that people wanted to create. And if we think of it that in that sense, it stops being exotic. And I think, what I love about Angkor is how it represents, in a way, what Southeast Asia is, because Southeast Asia is often spoken of in terms of being a bit of China and a bit of India. And undoubtedly, both play such a huge part in Southeast Asian culture. But the result is something rather incredible and unique. So, for example, Angkor Wat itself is a Hindu temple, but it is larger than any Hindu temple in India, and there's nothing like it in India. The other amazing aspect is the technology involved in how it was created, and to think that at that time, in this part of Southeast Asia, that something so remarkable from a scientific and technological and building perspective could have been created at that time.
You are a curator. You are also an author, and you are also the TV host or presenter of this special and so many others. In your experience, why all the Asian empire give us the wow effect every time that we want to discover something? Every time that we pass a page, it's a new layer. It's something to impress us the most. It's always about the past. What's the most important legacy of these empires today?
Um, I think, the influence today comes in so many ways. Um, I believe, interestingly, if we were to take a step back and look, firstly, it's clearly the lesson on impermanence. Nothing lasts forever, which is very much part of, sort of, if you think about it, Hindu and Buddhist philosophy, the rise and the fall. But you know, I think all we need are the kind of emotional connections to what still remains. I mean, in every language in Southeast Asia, we still see the legacy of ancient philosophy, the words for the universe, you know, or even common words, and it still survives in our language. All these incredible links to the past, let alone about food, and it is so tangible. Yet we can easily forget it as we carry on our day. But I think the idea that this program actually tries to keep that past very much in the present. I think that's what it tries to achieve.
Now it's time to share the last episode of this particular gem. It's about one of our favorite cultures, Indonesia, more specifically Maya Pajit. Maya Pajit is supposed to be the largest business and commercial network around the world. So let's get to know what Maya Pajit have to share with us. Thank you. Let's share it.
Crearon un imperio comercial tan vasto que se extendía más allá de la ruta de las especias. Su posición en la isla de Java entre la India y China, lo que la convirtió en una potencia comercial.
¿Quiénes somos?
Imperios de Asia, viernes a las 10 de la noche por History 2.
Now that we have a better idea and better understanding about the South Asia cultures and everything that you were able to share with us, why, in your words, no one should be missing this mini-series in History 2 about the Mark of Empire or Imperios de Asia in History 2. Why we must watch this series?
I think it is an opportunity for everyone to feel connected to Southeast Asia. And I mean, what we try to do is make it accessible to everyone as an emotional experience, not only in terms of a historical kind of documentary. And I think it is important to feel connected to Southeast Asia and also to what we've experienced here. And as well as, of course, it's not something easy, but how we grapple with nationalism, how we grapple with the colonialism, and how everything still moves forward today. And surely there must be a way forward about connections rather than exceptionalism. And I think that's what the show tries to actually push forward as a mission, that ultimately history isn't about studying the past so that we can feel different from others. It's about studying the past so that we can feel completely connected to everyone.
We happen to agree with that. Miguel, anything that you would like to add?
I think Peter mentioned something that is the core of our approach to entertainment and the approach to history itself, which is for many people, if you are you are not necessarily an historian, history might be a hard universe to get until you understand how you relate to it, how the past is relevant to your present. And I think that's the secret sauce of the series and the incredible way that Peter bring to life these incredible empires, because it's connecting the cultures, the traditions to the real life of the present today. So congratulations again, Peter. It's an honor for us to have you. Now I know it's your first time on camera, which I honestly didn't know. I think it's even more remarkable, the achievement. So we are really impressed about this series, and I think the audience of History 2 will really, really welcome this.
Thank you so much,
Perfect.
Miguel.
Now, I think one of the most beautiful things that you have said, Peter, is the way we connect emotionally through our history. And the more we know, the more connected we are, not only with our past and our history, but we're also more connected with other human beings. Because at the end of the day, we're a collective soul, and we need to share and learn from each other, and hopefully learn how to live in peace. So now we are
Absolutely,
going to,
Cesar.
I'm sorry?
No, absolutely agree with you, Cesar.
Thank you, Peter. Now we are going to go to questions and answers from our journalists in Latin America and Brazil. So I'm going to start asking the questions. And if someone is ready, she can go ahead. Otherwise, I'm going to start with the first question. I got the first question from Melissa Tovar Guerrero from Momentos Magazine from Colombia. Her first question is, which hypothesis about the culture of Asia do you have at the beginning of the production, and at the end of your experience of the production, you have discovered that was not the way you thought or the way you want to? What you learn from it and what you can share from it?
Um, I think the hypothesis at the start was really more questions. Uh, Everything is sort of open ended. Um, and in that sense, it's also, the approach to history as questions, and rather than dictating answers. So I feel it started with being inquisitive, and it ends the same way, really. Um, I think also that, it's often a mistake to think of history as something fixed. I think history is about a constantly changing perspective. And this perspective changes every time anybody writes or talks about another aspect of history. It adds on to the whole body of what we know of the past. So it's just that little few more drops
Yes, you were saying, Peter?
added to the ocean of history.
Perfect. Thank you.
That's how I
Now,
see it.
Mariana, please let's go to Q&A. Do you have any questions out there?
Hello. Yeah. Thank you so much, Tony. We you know the thing with Southeast Asia, I think, even coming from Singapore, where we've grown up with you know you know with the outside world thinking that we live in a very repressed society. My personal experience is that I never felt any of it. It was something we read a lot in the media in the first place. I mean, not to say that issues didn't exist, but just from a normal day-to-day interaction, you actually can sort of not notice all this that you read in the press. So, from a very superficial experience, of course, everywhere we went, people were incredibly warm and easy, and I did not feel any kind of restriction in any sense. However, of course, the production company faced challenges in terms of permits. Certain areas, we weren't allowed to film. Certain places we needed police permits first. I know, in Indonesia, in Cambodia, in Myanmar, uh, often we would be stopped and our papers would be checked, but generally, apart from that, we didn't really have any serious issues. In it was only in Myanmar that there was somebody from the ministry who was appointed to just observe, but he was really in the background. We didn't get any problem from him. He was just there as an observer. I did notice though that because there was an observer there, some of the people we interviewed might have been a little more reticent or might have spoken less freely on camera because of the concerns that there was a ministry person in attendance. But anyway, I think our topics were not really controversial, so we weren't there, you know, to call we weren't sort of any kind of trouble to the various ministries, I believe. Yeah.
We have another question from Mexico. Her name is Belen from El Heraldo, one of the most important newspapers in Mexico. It's raining very badly, so she sent her question via WhatsApp, even though they are doing WhatsApp as well. So her question is, what do you think, Peter, new generations are so interested in learn about history today?
Sorry, what is the question?
The
The
question is
new
like, what do you think the new generations are so interested in learn and watch more history today?
Yeah, I one of the most exciting reactions we've had in general from viewers, not only in Singapore but everywhere else, is the fact that so many young viewers have come on board to have to watch this show, and I believe really it is the style of presentation. Um, I think In Focus Asia IFA has really kind of found a medium, a way of storytelling that works for young people. And really, I think YouTube and just the internet has made people much more interested to just search about the past. And I feel increasingly there's more content which is accessible to young people. So like your history channel. I think I think more and more historians, so to speak, are creating content which is authentic and at the same time accessible. So um, I feel along the way more history would have to be retold or repackaged in this way, and I feel very excited that all this will be integrated much more closely in the future.
We are with you. So, Mariana, we have
Yeah.
more questions to go.
Yes, Catalina Donoso from Chile, Positive Diva Magazine.
Hello. Hi, thank you so much for your time. I'm very excited. I have to hear you, especially your accent. I love it. I live in Singapore for 2 years and it was my best
Really?
experience of my life. And especially seeing your pictures, I just, that's blown my emotion because I felt, you mentioned something so incredible about emotion, how you be there, how you feel. See the sunset, the smell of the flowers are incredible. It's so many different experience, the five sense. But something about the History Channel. Do you think documentaries and film helps to promote the culture of the temples and history? Because I remember when I was there, we all know about Angelina Jolie on the Tomb Raiders, the Angkor Temple, and everyone want to have the same picture in the same spot that she was. So I believe, I think in my experience, because it was about 100 people taking the same spot, do you think this documentary and films help to promote or catch the curiosity of everyone in the world about visiting these places?
Yes, I really agree how, popular culture can help uh, promote and make people very excited about the past. And yeah, I mean, of course, when we were there, everybody was talking about Angelina Jolie. And, you know, uh, and the other thing with, for example, the Ayutthaya episode, we explore this Asia. So, there is one particular temple where people go and dress up and wear costumes from the Ayutthaya period. I mean, it's a bit of like pop culture history all mashed together, but why not? So, it kind of has a life of its own, but what we have are, people from China, from Japan, and from elsewhere just, rushing to this temple and having a perspective on the past, and it's I love that history can be many things. It doesn't just have to be a serious book. It can be a fun TV series and wearing costumes and everything. So yeah, it's multidimensional, and I'm glad you. So thank you for being so excited about the show
Yeah.
and the kind of tactile or multisensory aspect of the show. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Now we are
Who's next,
going.
please?
Yes, Joaquín Lepeley from Colombia, Cinema 100.
Hello, Mr. Lee. Your work is spectacular.
Thank you.
Tell us, tell us how the power of the empire and religion mix in Asia.
Yeah, well, I think like with everywhere else in the world at that time, the link between religion and the state was so strong, um, and and, and we can see the physical outcome of that. I mean, so what are the sort of remnants of that past? Of course, they're all religious monuments. You know, sad to say, I come from Singapore, where now it's business and government. So our biggest kind of landmark is the casino. So a thousand years from now, if that's the thing standing, that represents our culture. But at that time, the main aspirations were religious, and so more money was even spent on temples versus palaces. So as a result, so few palaces survive. Just these incredible religious structures, and yeah, of course, you know, it's dangerous to paint too rosy a picture of that. I mean, you know, as with any history, I think the past is marked with as much celebration as it is with violence, and you know, I, I think maybe, yeah, we tend to try and forget how everything good and bad went hand in hand as well, and I think it's quite critical to not paint too rosy a picture about religion and government. Of course, we are left with incredible art, but as with all beautiful things, there is such a layer of suffering underlying beauty.
Mariana, let's go
Thank
with the
you.
next question. Thank you.
Yes, from Nacheli Ramírez from Mexico, from El Sol, El Heraldo de México.
Hello.
Nayeli, are you there? Please unmute you. Well, we are gonna continue with Melissa Tobar.
No, that question was already the first one from Colombia. That question was the first one, Mariana. Sorry, don't
Okay,
worry.
sorry. Eduardo Rueda from Expecta Pop from Mexico. Eduardo.
Hola, buenas tardes a todos. Saludos desde la Ciudad de México. Me gustaría preguntar un poquito acerca de si esta serie fue creada o prevista solamente como 4 capítulos y si hay o hubo algo que les hubiera gustado incluir además de lo que vamos a ver en esta miniserie. Gracias.
He would like to know if this particular miniseries was always planned to have only 4 episodes, and if that was the case, what do you think was missing or you would like to add to this particular 4 episode miniseries?
Oh, you won't get me to stop talking on this. I think, yeah, unfortunately, I think the plan was to start with, conservatively with this newbie who's never done TV before. I think, um, I think the aim of the channel was to start just with something manageable. And in fact, I know that IFA Media has been in discussions with Channel News Asia for, further episodes. But unfortunately, because of the COVID, we haven't been able to proceed with, anything and we're just waiting for the situation to improve, I think. But yeah, I mean, so well, there are plans, and of course, there's so much, like there's so many more interesting stories in Southeast Asia, and beautiful monuments and little pockets of history that I think we need to share. Yeah, and well, my other favorite would be definitely Borobudur, which is Indonesia again. And Indonesia is a country that I feel very, very close to emotionally. Yeah.
Now, yes, we're
Next
gonna
question,
go
Mariana.
to El Sol de México, Belén y Ligio. Belén.
Thank you. Thank you. Hi, Peter. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Awesome. Peter, first of all, congratulations for this documentary. And I would like to ask your opinion as a historian, because people say that we learn from history, and if we know our history, we won't repeat it. Do you think this is true? Do you think we actually have learned from everything that has happened in the past?
I think the sort of wave of history sometimes is unstoppable. But also what we do learn is that that things move up and down, and in and it's a constant dynamic. So if anything, that is the big picture, that nothing lasts forever, right? But I mean, but I think, though, what is more important though about history in a way is that more and more people should write more, and even if it's a casual reminiscence or whatever, the more variety we have in voices, the more real history will be. I think one of the problems of history is that perhaps it's kind of a bad habit from the past, where it's seen as something that needs to be very firm and finite. Um, you know, Historians tend to want to present a very fixed view, which is, I think, always the responsibility of academia in the past, to give you a very fixed idea of knowledge. But I think moving ahead, history has to be, or any kind of academic pursuit needs to be a bit more open-ended, and especially for history, where new writing comes in every day, that we end up not just with one narrative, but a whole network of narratives. And the more we get to that, I think the more we will be able to see that you know, the multi dimensions of the past were the same before as they are today. You know.
Peter, we are always saying that history is about the storytelling and storytellers. Therefore, we are more than privileged, more than grateful, and more than happy that we have the chance to chat with you today and you tell your experiences from your heart to ours to understand what is history. But not only understand history based on your knowledge, but also for the feelings and emotions that we can see every time your lights light up and you express your passion for history and these particular cultures. What do you think these particular cultures that we have about South Asia have in common? And what is the major difference, if any, among themselves?
Yeah, I think one of the things about growing up in Singapore, you know, we are we are so comfortable in every world, you know, like um, you know, whether I'm eating, you know, using my hands, eating in a, you know, having a wonderful meal in an Indian restaurant, or an English breakfast, you know. Anyway, you know, from every direction, we just feel so at home, and I think traveling in Southeast Asia, that so many things resonated, um, and I think this is largely because people have been moving around for centuries, and so, you know, you know, the senses are just so stimulated by this weird feeling of being so at home in every Southeast Asian country. And I often feel that even when you know, when I'm totally somewhere else. So I went to school in England, for example, and all my best friends were Spanish. So even just hearing uh, Spanish at the moment, I just feel like a school kid again with my best friends. Um, and you know, it's funny how even that resonates. So, but yes, I would say in Southeast Asia we connect in so many ways. Even sometimes just a random word that is said, um, you know, there is that connection. And the funny thing is that even from when we think of the, you know, not just from the ancient uh, Hindu period, but right up to the colonial period. So, for example, I speak Malay, and I would go to Spain, for example, and be so shocked that we call butter in Malay is mentega, and for, you know, wheat we say terigu, and to you know, and the light is lampu, and you know, a cupboard is an almera. So, you know, it was a shock to me that these were not Malay words anyway, and then that you know, I could understand a little bit of Spanish. So, you know, we are connected in so many little ways, and even, for example, because of the Sanskrit base of, for example, Malay and Thai and all that, I would hear something in Thai, and it would be the same Sanskrit base for a word in Malay, and then sometimes it would be a Chinese word that I know. So, you know, it sort of resonates and ding dongs back and forth in so many ways, connecting East and West, and you know, it's crazy.
Another aspects of Asian cultures are always tied in with religion and their thoughts or perspective about afterlife. What do you want to add about that? Religion and afterlife.
What personally want to add to it? I just believe
Yes.
that, yeah, um, I just believe that we need to make the most of every day, and I'm not really concerned about that at all. I think we need to make our heaven today, and it's possible. It's within our power to make every day like heaven.
And if we live every day like heaven and we believe in the power of now, we want to thank you for this amazing shot. And we would like to see if you have any additional words before we say goodbye. Peter, anything else? that you want to
Well,
say?
I'm just feeling so incredibly grateful, and I feel so happily connected to a part of the world that I've never been, but you know through television, and one of my I've just recently become really close friends with the ambassador of Mexico, for example, and his wife, and just meeting them, I felt like they were people I knew from before. So I just feel you know history allows us so many avenues to connect, and yeah, we're all one world.
Absolutely. One world, one voice, and hopefully one big piece of the world. Miguel, anything else? ¿Algo más que quieres agregar?
Number one, we are counting with season 2 as soon as the pandemic allows Peter to continue his work. He mentioned something very interesting at the beginning of the conference, which is this idea of that history is not necessarily something written in stone. It's something that is a living animal and is subject to change as we shed new lights on it. How would you say that history of these incredible ancient cultures has changed because of the new lights that historians like you and the new generations adding this a new perspective on them, completely different than the perspective maybe of the historians from the last many centuries?
Thank you, Miguel. I really hope season 2 also is going to happen soon. Um, yeah, and also I I think it's this is you raise such an important question, because I think one of the biggest challenges for us in Asia is that we've grown up with an education system where uh, we've been conditioned to think of Asia as unchanging and fixed, and and as a result, you find that most Asians talk about their past in an apologetic way. We'll go, "Oh, I'm not very Chinese, but blah blah blah." Or I don't feel very Malay, or I don't feel very. We start apologizing a little bit for how we don't fit the kind of the stereotype built or the narratives built by nations and the historians of the past. And I feel my mission is to kind of humanize and to make this past much more accessible. And I feel the only way is to deconstruct it, to show that it wasn't fixed. People were not boring and conservative and sort of narrow-minded, and why so many young Asians cannot make that connection is because we've been given this almost fantasy or stereotype of the past that has no emotional resonance. So I think going forward, I think the things like this series and new histories that come forward will actually have to address this kind of dichotomy, and really it's about for us here in Asia about integrating this past with the present, and basically we're all so multicultural, and we have many faces and many dimensions to our personality, and our vision of the past has to be the same. It cannot be a monocultural monolith anymore.
It's a
I
fascinating
think
approach.
it is indeed, because one of the most important things that you keep highlighting is the emotional connection, and how important the emotional connection was throughout history to connect each one of those communities, and how important and relevant emotional connection is still today to connect us, all the audiences, even through Zoom, even through your phone, even through any kind of technology. We keep connecting more and more tribes and communities around the world. And I think we didn't change that much. I think technology have changed, but our thirst to get to know more about us and learn different ways to connect with each other are intact, are the same ones from 1,000 years ago. So we're still humans after
Absolutely.
all.
Yes.
So thank
Absolutely.
you so much, Peter. Thank you so much, Peter.
Thank
Gracias.
you so much,
Muchas gracias, Miguel.
Miguel.
Gracias, Brasil. Gracias, Colombia. Gracias, Argentina, Chile, Ecuador. Muchísimas gracias a todo el mundo y hasta la próxima semana para un próximo encuentro. Y ahora vamos a compartir con ustedes más novedades, porque el 8 de junio con History estaremos compartiendo con los sobrevivientes del terrible accidente de avión llamado Viven, donde un par de jugadores de rugby de Uruguay caen en medio de la nieve y algunos sobrevivieron. ¿Por qué sobrevivieron? ¿Fueron predestinados? Y todas esas preguntas las responderemos con lo inexplicable este 8 de junio. Así que muchas gracias a todos. Muito obrigado. Thank you so much. Y hasta la próxima vez. Thank you. Gracias. Namaste.
Thank you. Muchas gracias. See you.
Southeast Asia is one of the most diverse places on the planet. With so many different cultures and religions, all living side by side. And I'm an example of just that. My name is Peter Lee. I'm a Singaporean scholar of Peranakan descent, Chinese with a dash of Malay blood. I celebrate being mixed up. It's right in my DNA. My passion is collecting artifacts that offer a fresh narrative. It's a European fairy tale, but is depicted on a batik from Indonesia. How wonderful is that? I'm setting off on a new journey, traveling further back in time. Oh my God, we see this everywhere in Southeast Asia. To explore how the region's mighty empires have shaped our collective identity. This is a gold mine. No culture exists in isolation. In this episode, I'm in Thailand. 500 years ago, most of this land was controlled by the Ayutthaya Empire. It flourished by utilizing its natural resources.
Oh, he's going for it.
Growing into a trading giant that spawned one of the world's largest cosmopolitan hubs of its time. I'm discovering the secrets. I feel like an explorer from the old days. Of how it became one of Southeast Asia's richest kingdoms. And how it transformed the course of Thai history.